Next chapter of our success story in order to achieve what our team this year aspires. One autonomous Cordillera, ensuring social development and inclusive growth in the new normal.
A message from Benguet Governor Dr. Melchor Daquinis de Clas.
Uy, 6 p.m. na. Umalis na si boss! Beer ka ulit na! Drink responsibly.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DZBS Baguio.
This is News Night, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, top government officials and other prominent personalities pay respects to former President Fidel V. Ramos on the first day of his wake. The first nationwide COVID-19 vaccination and booster drive under the Marcos administration fails to meet its target. What is the next step of the health department? And fans will no longer see the star-studded Batgirl film, but at least they can look forward to Warner Brothers' sequel to the award-winning Joker movie. A steady stream of high-profile visitors arriving at the wake of former President Fidel V. Ramos at Heritage Park in Taguig. President Bongbong Marcos was there at past 10 in the morning. Our George Quiles has the story.
Wearing a black band on his left arm, President Bongbong Marcos led government officials in paying their last respects to former President Fidel Ramos. Marcos, a distant relative of the departed, condoled with former First Lady Ming Ramos.
We are related with FBR, and so it is also a family. It is also part of our. It is also a family event. The loss of FBR when he became president was a symbol of stability. After all the tumultuous events of 1986, when he came into the presidency, he brought calm and he brought stability to our country. And for that, we will always be grateful to him and for all his service.
Thank you very much for coming. I did realize we have so many friends. Okay. We work hard. We also try to work hard. And now he deserves the rest that he needs.
Other government officials who visited the wake include Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma, Energy Secretary Rafael Lotilla, Special Assistant to the President Secretary Anton Lagdameo, Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez, House Speaker Martin Romualdez, and Senator Bong Revilla.
I always remember him as a real workaholic. Every day you get to receive news clippings with handwritten notes. Sinusubaybayan niya kung ano mga dapat na gagawin. And he always expects that you will be giving him feedback.
Other prominent personalities and former ranking government officials who also dropped by were former Vice President Leni Robredo, former Senate President Tito Soto, and former Supreme Court Justice and Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales.
He has shed off the political colors. Kahit na LDP ka, NPC ka, there were 5 NPC in the Senate during that time. But he worked with us.
Robredo and Marcos's paths did not cross at the Heritage Park as the former Vice President left before the President arrived. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Let's now get the latest from Heritage Park. Stanley Gaheta joining us live from there to tell us former President Rodrigo Duterte was there about an hour and a half ago. Stanley?
Former President Rodrigo Duterte is here to pay his last respects to former President Fidel Ramos. He says that it was Ramos who first egged him to run for president, and Ramos even gave him campaign contribution. Duterte describes FVR as a strict leader owing to his military background and that Mr. Ramos was a man of his word. People continue to arrive here at the Heritage Park to pay tribute to former President Ramos. Among them are former Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, former Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, former Chief Justice Antonio Carpio, former National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon, and Attorney Salvador Panelo. They remember FVR's kindness and his way of treating others with dignity and respect. The same sentiments we got from his hometown in Asingan, Pangasinan. Here in Asingan, not a single bust or statue has been erected in honor of their most famous and also their most favorite son, Fidel Valdez Ramos. Only the family's ancestral home, not far from the town hall, serves as a reminder that the country's 12th president grew up there. Photos of the Ramos family warmly welcome visitors. His security officer, Amadeo Licudan, shares his fondest memories of the late president.
Duplex po ito. Itong sa kaliwa kay former President Ramos. And then dito sa kanan kay former Senator Siahani. Ako naman po yung inilagay niya rito na security niya, galing ako sa Presidential Security Group. Since na nag-retire na ako, ang napag-usapan namin, kahit retire na ako, hindi ko iiwan ito. Habang andito to, nasa kanila pa, andito rin ako. Ito po yung ginagamit ni former President Ramos na lamisa. Pag andito yung mga cabinet members niya, dito sila kumakain, nag-uusap-usap.
Licudan says FVR was an officer and a gentleman and he will never run out of good words about him.
Pinaka-memorable. Every time na magkasama ka ba, basta pinatawag ako, magpupusap ako. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pinakamabait na tao yan na nakilala ko. Itrato lahat ng tao. Kung paanong trato mo sa sarili mo, ganon din yung trato mo sa tao.
People also spoke about Ramos' grounded character. Mary Director recalls Ramos' visit in Asingan in 2007 when he personally gave her a piece of cigar.
After namin na inassist si former president, may inauguration ng isang building dito. Natutuwa po kasi syempre it's from our former president. Wala pong katumbas ito. Talagang iingatan ko po ito.
FVR's niece Angel Febre says her famous uncle always cared for his loved ones.
A very noble man. He was a great man that would speak for him. I love you, Uncle Ed, and thank you for everything.
Each guest who comes here at Heritage Park to pay their last respects to former President Ramos has here or her own recollection of his good qualities as a leader, as a friend, and as a human being. The visiting hours will end at 10 p.m. and we are expecting that more government officials, members of the business community, and former members of the Malacanang Press Corps will attend the wake tomorrow. Pia.
Stanley Gaheta there reporting. Join me for a CNN Philippines special coverage in the morning of Tuesday, August 9th, for the state funeral for former President Fidel Valdez Ramos. The Health Department steps up vaccination efforts after failing to hit target numbers. Almost 365,000 people were boosted from July 26th to August 2nd, while nearly 2,700 senior citizens were vaccinated. The DOH admits these are not enough to meet the 8.7 million full vaccination target and the 36 million for booster shots. Officials are opening up inoculation sites in more public areas. Among the target recipients are transport drivers and operators, commuters, and mall goers.
At yung ginagawa natin ngayon, ang ating Pinaslakas campaign ay isang pamamaraan para kahit na nakakakita tayo ng pagtaas ng kaso, hindi siya magta-translate into an equal or even higher increase in our admissions, hindi siya magta-translate sa pagkapuno ng ating mga ospital tulad ng nakita natin ng Delta. Nag-high risk tayo, hindi lang sa total, pati ICU utilization. So the message is let's do something para hindi tayo umabot doon sa sinasabi nating mga peak ng hindi lang kaso, pero even our admissions and utilization rates. Para safe tayo, sinasabi ng projections, mag-booster tayo.
The DOH cites projections COVID-19 cases could peak by September or October. Lawmakers revives calls to abolish the interagency task force despite rising infections. Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel says COVID-19 efforts should be streamlined and leaving the job to the DOH will lead to a quicker and more efficient response. The Senate is implementing stricter health protocols after Senator Alan Peter Cayetano tested positive for COVID-19 Wednesday. Senate Secretary Ray Bantug says beginning Monday, guests will be required to show proof of negative antigen test results taken in the last 24 hours. A list of accredited laboratories will be provided. Pimentel says there is no need to return to hybrid setup. Only visitors with important matters should enter the Senate building. When we come back, how are Southeast Asian nations reacting to tensions as China launches its biggest military drills around Taiwan? And a lawmaker pushing for a measure regulating the use of sidewalks. More after the break. Welcome back. Former President Duterte refuses to comment on President Marcos's decision not to rejoin the International Criminal Court. Duterte reiterates he's ready to face charges over his bloody drug war, but only in Philippine courts. He insists the ICC has no jurisdiction on alleged crimes committed while the country was still a member of the tribunal.
I would rather not comment on it, actually. I cannot, I am a civilian. I cannot say anything about it. Tahimik lang muna ako.
Justice Secretary Boying Remulla said there will be no sacred cows in his department's drug war review, even personalities as high as the former chief executive. A bill has been filed at the House of Representatives seeking to penalize the unauthorized use of sidewalks, whether for parking or selling or using them as bicycle or motorcycle lanes. Lois Calderon gives us details.
Divisoria sidewalks are crowded, both by pedestrians and vendors. We found Aling Nena selling clothes and slippers in one corner. It's not her real name because what she does is illegal. And for the past 3 decades, cops and the MMDA have been chasing her.
Takot at takot kami. Nakiusap po kami na kung pwede po namin makuha yung tinda namin. Ayaw po nila ibigay.
Nakumpiska po yung mga paninda?
Opo, kasi binibigay daw po nila sa bahay ang punan. Utang lang po namin yan sa 5-6.
Divisoria is a public market, but when both buyers and sellers converge on sidewalks, there will be no more space for those just passing by. That's why lawmaker Ramon Huico Jr. wants all sidewalks cleared of vendors like Aling Nena. House Bill 1252 has a long list of what and who cannot use sidewalks. That includes parking and doing business. The proposed law is more punitive because it penalizes violators a fine of as much as 30,000 pesos or a jail term of 1 year. MMDA's head of Task Force Special Operations Colonel Bong Nebrija says the Huico bill gives the existing land transportation law more teeth.
There's really no penalty. It's confiscation. But what we do sometimes for those repeated offenders, we write them environmental tickets. The consequence might be deterrent for people to use the sidewalks for personal or commercial use.
For sidewalk vendors like Aling Nena, what law enforcers confiscate is equal to her family's lifeline. Her sick child needs an operation.
Kaya yung anak ko po ngayon hindi pa na-ooperahan kasi gawa po na wala pong tinda.
It's a cat and mouse chase each day.
Personally, I do not want to haggle with them taking their goods. The capital that they use in selling these goods are coming from loan sharks. The 5-6, the microfinancing on the streets, or what we call the 5-6, right? And if you will take that, they will just borrow again. Ang batas walang puso, ang enforcers ng MMDA meron.
Huico's bill makes pedestrians the #1 priority. But people like Aling Nena who live in fear each day also seek to live with dignity. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
The Education Department directs local governments to remove quarantine facilities that were set up in public schools during the pandemic. That says more than 15 million public school students are expected to return to classrooms by November. The opening of the new school year begins in 2.5 weeks.
Especially here in Metro Manila, marami yatang nagamit na quarantine facilities. There's a school in Quezon City na nakausap na rin natin, and they are already pulling out this week yung mga isolation tents na nandun pa rin. We are coordinating with the LGUs, specifically the barangays. Kung meron pa silang mga places like basketball courts, rooms that they are not using, we're also looking at tapping into the private sector kung meron po silang maibibigay na mga rooms para sa ating learners.
The DepEd is working on setting up temporary learning spaces or tents for schools damaged by the magnitude 7 earthquake that hit Abra last week. Latest data shows over 600 classrooms were totally damaged, while over 1,000 were partially damaged. The estimated cost for reconstruction is around 2.1 billion pesos. The mayor of Panglao Town in Bohol province gets the side of the vendor behind the allegedly overpriced food on Virgin Island. A viral post shows 13 tourists were charged more than 26,000 pesos for a seafood meal, but Mayor Boy Arcay says the vendor told him the meal was good for 20 people, including their boatmen.
Ang sabi ng nagbibinta, malayo rin daw ng kinukumprahan nila yung paninda kasi kuminsan doon sila namimili about 120 kilometers from Panglao. Mahal rin gasolina. Parang nalungkot rin yung may-ari ng tindahan kasi sabi niya, bakit pinipicturean nila na tapos na, mga buto-buto na nang naiwan?
The island is temporarily closed to food vendors while tourism activities are limited to sightseeing as authorities probe the controversy. The local government of Panglao is now considering putting up a street food or night market as an alternative area of business for displaced vendors. Global headlines now. China fires multiple missiles in its biggest military drills over Taiwan following the visit of United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi Wednesday. Beijing has strongly opposed the trip, where the top U.S. official pledged support to the self-ruled island. Leaders from Southeast Asian nations call for restraint to prevent a possible armed conflict. Tristan Nodalo is still in China with the latest.
China's People's Liberation Army kicks off its military exercises in key strategic areas around Taiwan in response to the visit of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Tuesday. The drills are taking place in the northern, eastern, and southern portions of Taiwan, which could block sea and air spaces. Pelosi's visit was strongly condemned by Beijing with a commitment to respond militarily and economically.
玩火者绝对没有好下场，犯我中华者必将受到惩处。
World leaders are calling for maximum restraint as tensions over Taiwan build up. Foreign ministers from the ASEAN region also expressed concern over the situation in Taiwan Strait, a potential flashpoint that could lead to an actual armed confrontation. The regional bloc also called on parties to refrain from provocative actions and uphold the so-called One China policy. The United Nations also reiterates their position on the decades-long principle that there is only one Chinese government.
We abide by General Assembly resolutions, by the One China policy, and that is the orientation that we have in everything we do.
As tensions heat up, the Philippines is closely monitoring developments in Taiwan, highlighting the need for contingency plans.
While we don't have the intention of engaging in a war with any country, okay, we might be caught in crossfires with warring countries, ano? And what we need to prepare for is not a capability to fight a war, but what we need to prepare for immediately and urgently is the capability to respond to any foreseeable contingencies.
The Manila Economic Cultural Office in Taiwan says contingency and evacuation plans are in place for thousands of overseas Filipino workers in the island. Reporting from Guangzhou, China, Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
The Philippines joining calls for restraint, saying diplomacy and dialogue should prevail. Up next on Newsnight, global producer Warner Brothers teases a sequel to the hit movie Joker. And Maroon 5 is returning to Manila. Find out how and where to buy tickets. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines. This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. New IBO World Flyweight Champion Dave Apolinario paid a courtesy call on President Marcos yesterday in Malacanang. The Pinoy boxer gave Mr. Marcos an autographed pair of boxing gloves, while the chief executive congratulated the undefeated Apolinario, who now has 17 wins to his name. The Doberman knocked out three-division former world champ Gideon Buthelezi in South Africa over the weekend. Making a buzz online, some Warner Brothers films streaming only on HBO Max were suddenly removed from the platform. Among the 6 titles now gone are sci-fi romance Moonshot, starring Cole Sprouse, and The Witches featuring Anne Hathaway. Netizens speculating it's part of the company's efforts to cut $3 billion in expenses after a costly merger deal with streaming platform Discovery. This also coincides with Warner Brothers' decision not to release its star-studded Batgirl movie featuring Leslie Grace and Michael Keaton. Warner Brothers says the move reflects its strategic shift for the DC Universe and HBO Max. The directors say they're saddened and shocked by the news. They add the movie was far from finished, but they hope that one day fans will get to see the final cut. The film was already in post-production and was set to arrive on HBO Max this year. The platform is not yet available here in the Philippines. But as one DC hero says goodbye, one villain will be saying hello soon. CNN's David Daniel has that and a newly dropped romantic comedy on tonight's Hollywood Minute.
Joker fans have plenty of time to build up anticipation for the sequel. Joker Folie à Deux is set to arrive in theaters October 4th, 2024, 5 years to the day after the original film's release. 2019's Joker made more than $1 billion worldwide, the highest-grossing R-rated movie of all time.
I just started a new job. It's totally consuming my life. I have no time for anything else, and I'm okay with that.
And I just took a break from my job, but I have all the time in the world, and I am totally okay with that.
See? We're doomed.
After an awful first date, Asha and Ravi pretend to be dating to get their parents off their backs and to survive wedding season. The rom-com contrasts traditional arranged relationships and modern online dating.
It is just so similar.
And that's actually better, I think, in a sense. That's my opinion. Just because at least there's like some reference point.
There's some reference points. I don't want to call anything better or worse, but there are options. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Who knows? You might just bump into
Have
the
you
love
been
of
on
your
any
life.
of the dating apps?
I've been on the dating apps. They suck.
Wedding season is now streaming on Netflix. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Maroon 5 fans, here's your wake-up call to grab tickets for the band's concert here at home. The fan club pre-sale for Maroon 5 World Tour in Manila kicked off today. The Live Nation pre-sale is set tomorrow. General sale begins Saturday. The band performs at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City on December 8th. K-pop meets K-drama with Sandara Park and Squid Game star Jong Ho-yeon taking pictures together in Seoul, South Korea. The former 21 member responded to a netizen who pointed out that Ho-yeon is a blackjack or a fan of the girl group. Apparently, Ho-yeon said she liked 21 and even sang lyrics of their hit Fire for Sandara. And that is it for now. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go